I cried. It took me back to the beginning of my forgiveness process. And I ended up sitting in a car one day, about probably 3 months later, and saying, and realizing that the epiphany was that I did not have to be with that person to request the forgiveness or to forgive them for what they had done to me. Because all I was doing was releasing me from the hurt and pain of being a child. And so that I could move on, I sat in my car in my moment and I forgave him. He was nowhere around. And I released myself from that hurt and pain. And it allowed me to rebuild a relationship with him that got us to today.
And, I mean, a lot of that was probably time.
Definitely some time.
Yeah.
Definitely some time. No process of healing happens immediately. You can tell me what you want to tell me. I don't care who you are. Healing takes time.
Right.
You know, even after an apology, healing takes time.
Right.
You know, that you have to endure a process to get to whatever you want.
So it's like, you know, what happens when your peace is shaken? I think people need to, I guess, identify, recognize that their peace has been shaken, but also consider and factor in that it's going to be a process.
It's going to
take some time, because it's like, I know when I was in high school, I broke my wrist and I missed like my whole senior basketball season, and I had to go through that 6 week, that process of healing, and then even coming out that cast. But I wanted to be healed right then and there.
And then realizing that in this process there's pain.
It's pain.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you want it bad enough, you will endure the pain and the hurt to get to the place of healing.
And I'm sure in your life experiences and situations, you wanted that to be right
immediately.
Then and there. Immediately.
Sometimes you just because that's what I want doesn't mean that's what I'm going to get.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just because who wants to endure pain?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? We want a healing. We want a peace. With not thinking that I'm going to have to endure. It's going to cost me something. I'm going to have to endure a thing to get there.
Did you know when you were younger what that price was going to be?
No, I didn't even understand what prices were. I didn't understand what giving up, what letting go, what releasing yourself from looked like. Because see, Pam, I need people to, we're not talking about a literal price.
Right.
You know, we're not talking about it's going to cost you something like a few dollars, because you can't pay this stuff off.
Right.
You have to endure it. You have to go through it. You have to have a scar from it probably to get to the end of it. So when it heals, you know, a real good scar, even when it's finished healing, leaves a mark.
Now, I know like sometimes when we're younger, we don't understand what we're dealing with and what we're going through. At what point do you think you like got a firm understanding of this is where I am, this is why? Because sometimes we can go through things and think it's something wrong with us. It's something wrong with me. This like, and not saying you specifically, but let's say for that child who's abused or that child who is neglected,
right,
it's something wrong with me.
And how did I put myself here?
How did I put myself there? Like,
I think as a kid, it's different as an adult. Because I think that even as an adult, I have endured processes where I was like, why is this happening to me? I've been faithful, I've been true, I tithe, I do my part. Why me? So I don't think that process ever leaves. But I think as a child, if you don't have some type of role model, I ain't going to say it has to be an adult, because some kids just kind of get it. But it has to be somebody who's endured a process that is able to reassure that it's not just you. You didn't get you here. You didn't deserve this. This wasn't deserving. I think it's hard to process that as a kid. I don't think that it comes with like a handbook. I think that without connection, because we're talking about some neglect that may happen in a home, and the only adult they had to trust is the person in the home, I don't know if they're going to ever get it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Until they grow up and realize, I didn't. That wasn't because it was me. That's because that person had a problem.
Right.
But that's a process.
Right.
You know, to even get to be an adulthood, to be able to look back on your childhood and see the stuff.
Right.
I mean, I guess a prime example for me is because of the abuse I endured, right? I was a part of, I watched, I saw. I am, as it pertains to men, very strong-minded. Strong-mouthed is what they say. I come off hard because I refuse for you to get me to that place.
Right.
So I've tamed it and because I recognized it throughout the years.
Right.
And it's not all the way gone because it's actually a mechanism for me to be able to deal.
Okay.
It's a safe place for me. However, I endured some trauma that forced me to get a tool to be able to stand up for myself, to then now implement in my adulthood.
Okay. Now, I had a listener, excuse me, I had a listener from episode, excuse me. Hey, this is organic, y'all. This is live. I had a listener from episode 21 that Mark Davis, he does a lot of photography at the events and is a tremendous supporter of the podcast. And can I get a word? He wanted me to ask you. He said it would be interesting to have Nicole Fields comment on high level government leadership failure to support those dealing with sexual harassment abuse. I'm thinking of the president and Roy Moore. What is your comment on that? Understanding that, a lot of women and even men, peace have been shaken by sexual harassment. We've seen Russell Simmons step down. I just
see that, right.
We've seen Matt Lauer get fired. I
think that it's a serious issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think this should not go for too long because I guess for me in some of the work areas is that it's a joke. We playing around. There are levels, and then I think it's more so respect that there are levels to sexual harassment.
Right.
That sexual harassment is not blanket of sex with a coworker, but it could be final. It could be things that you say. It could be a post that you put up. If you put up at your desk, if you offend somebody, there are levels to sexual harassment. And I think that you have to respect people for where they are.
Right.
And if I'm offended, then respect my offense.
Okay.
I think that's it. I don't know about the higher levels in government. I think our government has a lot to be. What is the word? How you say it? To be desired.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I wouldn't have expected for him to say anything anyway when ultimately he has a sexual harassment suit walking in the door.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I didn't expect a response.
Right.
And those who did, I'm sorry for you, but then you don't pay attention.
Right. Okay. What I really wanted to ask you next is, how do you feel about violence in Richmond, Virginia?
That it has gotten out of control.
Mm-hmm.
That it has gotten out of control so much that it has become normal.
Yeah.
I think that the violence in this city is scary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mom of 4 children and 3 happen to be boys.
Mm.
Not that the girls are not violent, because they are. But a lot of the violence are teenage boys. I have a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 11-year-old. Not to include the kids who are at my house eating that are not included in my 4 children. It's a scary time. It's a scary time. I mean, in this city. I'm going to say across the world, but in this city, it is a scary time as it pertains to violence. And and violence is not just murder.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that we need to remember.
Right.
We've talked about domestic violence, so it's, that's stuff in the home, that's families. There's an uprooting in families right now. It's not just against, friends. It's stuff going on that's so close. I mean, just was it week before last? Mm-hmm. A father, a husband murdered a wife and her child.
Right.
The thought process right now of I don't care, life is not worth.
Right.
There is no respect for life in this city, I feel like.
If you could, where do we begin? Because, where do we begin?
Where do we begin?
I mean, because we've seen the concerts and Stop the Violence concerts and, somebody dies and the T-shirts. And, I was at a funeral Saturday where, the pastor was saying, how many more times we going to do this? How many more young men we going to bury? But it's where do we start?
I can't say where we start. I feel like you identify your passion and your purpose. Because everybody can't, if I say where I want to start, and your passion is not where I'm at, then you can't start where I start. Mm. You know what I mean? I think we have to identify first and understand your passion and purpose. So I know without a shadow of a doubt that teenagers and women are my passion and my purpose. Those are the things that get my heart to beat. Those are the people that I could be with all day, and it for nothing. Mm-hmm. You know, you wouldn't even have to pay me. And so if I'm going to pick the teens to be the place to initially start, is meet them where they're at. The issue that I believe is that there has been a loss in tools. Okay. So I don't know if you remember growing up, there used to be peer mediation and conflict resolution classes. Yeah. You remember that? You know, and so if we had peer mediation, so if me and you are arguing and we got into a beef or we're going to fight after school, then we go into a room with another peer, right, who's a mediator and an adult. Right. And then we talked throughout the thing. We figured it out. We may have even figured out that it won't even a beef with us. It was started out with somebody else in the classroom who said it. Whatever it was, there was a tool given on how do we handle conflict. Our babies have no idea of how to handle conflict because their parents have no idea of how to handle conflict. So there's been a missing. So me personally, I would go to elementary schools and middle schools, and I would teach a form of conflict resolution. And then in the high schools, if it's just an immediate intervention. So for prevention, I would start there. And then for intervention, I would go right into the high schools and give them some tools on how to deal with, because it's usually they shot because of something that was said on social media, because of something, you've offended me. Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with the offense? But if I can't give you a skill, then where we starting? There's no need to start anywhere if I can't even teach you to communicate. Our kids can actually communicate in emojis if you let them. They can have a whole conversation with no words, yet you want me to teach them how to deal with conflict with a whole bunch of words. We've missed giving them tools. So I think that we deal in prevention and intervention. We intervene on those that are above 13, and we initiate prevention in those under.
And what type of things do you do with your boys, in your household in terms of raising them to be, productive citizens? Because I think somewhere along the line, certain lessons are being missed.
Yeah, I think we've missed a lot in parenting. Yeah. And I'm saying I'm not dismissing me. I had my oldest son at 19. I did not have the tools to be a parent at 19. All I had is what I saw, what I didn't want them to be, and I moved from there, if that made any sense. And I learned, actually I call my oldest son, I call him my learning son. That's the kid that, we grew up together, and wherever I messed up at, I didn't make those same mistakes with the people who followed behind him. And so I think at home, I'm genuine. I have an open door policy. My kids talk to me about anything, whether that means sex, whether that means girls and big tails or whatever they want to talk about. As grossed out as I am sometimes, and some of the stuff that they come in there and say, I don't turn them away. And so, but when I say open door policy, I'm saying to you, if you're going to use this, then that means that whatever they come with, there is no judgment. Right. You know what I mean? So if my kid came to me and told me that they were gay, my prayer is that, that's not the case. And if it is, right, guess what? When they come in the door, I love them still. Right. The world is going to be hard enough. Why would I want you to have to endure that alone? Exactly. And so I believe in that the door is open. And what I don't know, I don't claim to know. Right. I say, I don't know that. Let's look it up together. Let's figure it out. Or I'll go find a source for them together so that we get it right together. I won't leave the world to teach them anything. Right. They know how to put on condoms. They know how to get dressed. They also know how to tie a bow tie and a necktie. They also know how to fill out a job application and a resume. Right? If they know all of the latest songs and the fun dances, and we do them together, because if you look at my page, we dance and have a good time. But if you can't do these things that are going to make you successful, then I've taught you, I've lost you. Right. Then that's my responsibility. My oldest son is not the most studious kid in the whole wide world. And so my prayer had been, Lord, I just want him to pick the one to go to a JUCO first, to give him an opportunity he can still do his sports. And if he want to go to D1, they can come and see him there. Right. He came to me literally the other day and said, Mom, I need to talk to you. So I was thinking about going to a JUCO. It's in Texas. I didn't even care where it was. Right. It's in Texas. I saw it. I'm thinking about going there. He's an 11th grader. That's what his thought process should be. However, he's a class clown, so I'm not telling you my kids are perfect. Right. He is known. If you ask anybody about Big Nate, the first thing they're going to say is, oh, he a fool. Right. But the reality is Nate will be set up for greatness because I called him that.
Okay. Wow.